Hey, welcome to today's video. We're going to explain a roll trade, what that means. We're going to talk about a little bit of the psychology behind a roll trade and then how those work. And then I'm going to put on a roll trade based on what I have in my account right now and show you guys the steps to do that and how to enter that into your spreadsheet so you can track it. So over here we have the current option chain for ETH-A. Right now ETH-A is trading at $20.75. Here's the options. Now, first, I want to explain a little bit about what we're doing when we do these trades. Obviously, we talked a little bit about time decay and intrinsic value last week. So if we're looking at the $21 put right here, the intrinsic value in that put is 25 cents. How do we get that? We take the strike price minus the last traded price, which is $20.75, and we get 25 cents. So we know the intrinsic value is 25 cents, meaning there's roughly, if we go right between the bid-ask spread here, there's roughly 25 cents of time decay. And that's the juicy value that we want to put in our account. So that means if the price of ETH-A doesn't move to expiration, we would get that full 25 cents. And then we would owe essentially 25 cents to buy that option back as things expire, or we would let it expire and we would get put into ETH-A. Now, obviously, if we go up here, $20.50, the way that we get the intrinsic value of the $20.50 is we take the strike price minus the ETH-A price, and it gives us a negative number. Now, if it's a negative number, it means we're out of the money, and all of this is actually time premium, and that's important, and I'll explain. The way that I'm going to explain this is we're going to use this little, imagine this is like a cylinder of value. Each of these green squares equal 5 cents. So 5 cents. And like I said, in this $20.50, just like we said, this option right, this $21 one, 25 cents of it is intrinsic value. So when we look at this, there's 25 cents. There's 5 cells representing 25 cents of value. Now, up here, there's actually 6 cells of time value. Now, the reason that I had 6 in here is because an hour ago, when I started making this spreadsheet, there was actually 30 cents of time value. What happened with that 5 cents? Okay. As time passed, as I was making the spreadsheet, 5 cents of time value actually plopped off that thing. And where did it go? I'll show you. It went from here, and it actually went over to our account. I'm actually going to make the time value a different color because that would make more sense. So it actually went over into our account. And that's exactly what we want. So the option value went down, and we actually realized that time value went into our account. So as we roll options, as long as the value of the price of the underlying asset stays the exact same, we'll realize all this time value. So as that happens, every single one of these little 5 cent blocks of theta decay will go into our account, and that's where we make our money, okay? So even if the price of the underlying doesn't move at all, we make all the time value. And why is that important? Because that's basically what we're harvesting on all these rolls. So I'm going to give you a set of rolls and tell you exactly what I did in my little account, and you can see how those rolls kind of worked out, because it's interesting because it played out perfectly as we kind of hoped. And it kind of gave us a varying set of scenarios. So my very first roll actually, or trade into the $20 put, was on 5/28. What I did is I sold 3 contracts of the May 30th $20 put at 35 cents. Okay. And that first trade, I was watching ETH-A and I saw that moving around and stuff. I'm like, oh, you know what? I can do this. And I opened the trade actually 2 days before expiration, thinking that ETH-A would go up. And then I would actually realize all that time premium. What happened? ETH-A actually dropped a little bit, so it moved against me. And so you're thinking, well, that kind of stinks, but it wasn't that bad, because what I did is I actually ended up rolling into the June 6th $20 put. So I actually ended up buying it back at a 5 cent loss. So it was actually a $15 loss. Okay. And I actually rolled in to the June 6th $20 put. And I opened that at 98 cents. And I'm going to show you all this when I get over to my E-Trade in a second. on why and how that roll works. So actually, I did a net credit. Okay, I did a net credit of 58 cents. So I actually plumped that up. So what had happened was this actually went to all these. Let's just say that these were the timed values. They all disintegrated. They didn't go into my account at all because there was no time value that dropped off. There was only one basically time value to begin with that was there kind of, and I was kind of hoping that that would, but what happened was the intrinsic value, the green part, actually went up. And so actually because the stock itself moved against me, the intrinsic value of the option went up and sucked up that time decay. So it took over the time decay. The time decay did actually drop off, but it didn't go in my account like I'd hoped. The intrinsic value of the option itself went up. So I actually owed more on the option than when I'd sold it. So I actually bought that back, even though I sold it for 35 cents. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 35 cents. I actually owed 40 cents to buy that back. Okay, so I actually owed a little bit more to buy that back. And that was okay with me. I had a short-term loss of $15, but then I got a net credit. So when I got that new option, basically I rolled that intrinsic value was the same, but basically I refilled. What happened was I refilled my time value so that I could actually get this theta decay back. So I refilled that up. And now this option now had new time value in there that I could decay over the next week. And then it had the intrinsic value in there that's always going to be there no matter what. So my hope for the next week was this time value would drop off and then that would eventually go into my account. And that's kind of what happened. So over the next week, I waited. ETH kind of stayed the same, kind of like fluctuated in that same price range. And I closed that one out and rolled it into the June 13th. Okay. I rolled that over into the June 13th. I closed it for 72 cents. So I actually made 26 cents on the trade times 3 contracts. And then I bought or sold to close the $20 put, the June 13th $20 put for $1.10. So actually net on my whole trade right then at that point was $63, okay? And then I sold and I have a bigger credit even for the following week of $1.10 that I could hopefully realize the entire, this represents hopefully $1.10 of time value and only maybe 10 cents of intrinsic value, as I'll show you here in a second. So now this is where we sit. I have the June 13th $20 put, and I'm going to roll that now into next week's puts. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that. Okay, so if I come over here to E-Trade, I have this trade set up. Now, as you can see, ETH, actually, I'm going to refresh the quote because I'm not quite sure that's right. Yeah, ETH is trading, just like I said, $20.75, which is perfect for me right now. I can see this is the June 13th $20 put that I had, that I'd purchased, that I'd sold last week on the 5th. So that was about 7 days ago. I sold it for $1.10. And right now, if I go over to that trade, it's trading between 11 and 15 cents. So the bid, just like we talked about last week, what people are willing to pay you is 11 cents. Now, I could ask 15 cents and hope it fills, but it probably won't, okay? So the bid is my sure deal. If I wanted to close this thing right now, I would close it. Now, this is the whole roll, okay? This is both sides of the roll. If I wanted to take this out and I just wanted to close this trade, this is what this would look like, okay? So I would actually, you would see that this side of the trade, if I wanted to close this out, all I would do is I'd put a limit order and I would put probably somewhere in the middle. I'd put like 13 cents. And then I would buy back my 3 of the puts at 13 cents. So I would go over here and it would close out at this price. And I would actually make a pretty good profit on that thing. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but I could just close this out right now. And I would actually be up pretty good on, since I started trading, I'd be up on average 2.75% per week, which is not bad. 5.9% over the whole total 3 weeks, which is not bad at all. And even though that first trade, that first start of my rolling period was a loss, overall net, I could close this whole thing out right now and be at a pretty good gain, which is an option. So that's one option, what I could do. The other option is I could wait until tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday. If this price stays here, $20.75, this will expire worthless. So I could actually realize the other 13 cents right here. I could actually get that into my account, and I could just let this expire worthless, and then I'd be out of the trade, and I can open a new trade Monday and call it a day. And then I'd actually be up on average 3% per week, which is not bad at all. But because I'm going to show you guys the roll, I'm going to assume I'm going to get 13 cents out of this when I roll it. And the way that I would do that roll is I'd buy to close. It's actually a calendar. You put it in as a calendar. No, that doesn't work either. I think you have to, I think I can do over here and I can go roll. Yep. And that sets up my roll. Okay. So I actually have a few more than the 3 or whatever in my account. But anyway, so this is the 3, since we're doing the 3 that I had here. Okay. So you would buy to close the June 13th, and then I'd roll into the June 20th, the exact same strike. Now this one's trading at 52.56. So I could probably get 11. Okay. But I would have to buy at 56. So that net spread is 45 cents, or that net credit is 45 cents. Oh, sorry. I could actually get 15. Sorry. So when I buy to close, I would have to buy at 15 cents, and I would have to sell at the lower end, 52 cents. I had that inverse. Sorry. So my net credit, if I take it at the bid, would be 37 cents. If I put it somewhere in the middle, which is probably what I would do, I would probably do 41 cents, and I can just click on that, and it shows my net credit of 41 cents. What that does is it takes it in the middle at 13 cents, and it takes it in the middle here and puts your at 54 cents, okay? And then it gives you a net credit of 41 cents. So that way you're buying to close your $13. So I'd buy this one to close at 13 cents. And then what I would do is I'd actually open up a new one. Trade date is today. I would open up the June 20th $20 put. And that's actually a sell to open 3 of those. And my open price, if I come over here, is probably what it would be. It was in between these, would be 54 cents. Now I can go adjust that when it actually fills and I actually see what price I got. So it'd be 54 cents. And then that would be open for next week. If it expires worthless, yay, I made another good week of gains here. Not bad, but let's just put that in for the close price for right now. And let's just say that's what it costs. But ultimately next week, it's probably going to expire down worthless again, because I'm actually trading this one. This $20 put is already in the money. So what does that mean? Right now, it's selling at 54 cents. Okay. So this $20 put is, it's out of the money. So 100%, remember, you take the strike price and then you subtract the underlying asset price. And if it's a negative number, 100% of this is time premium. None of it's intrinsic value. You don't owe any of it back. So 100% of this 54 cents would go right into my pocket. All of this theta would go back into my pocket. There's 0 greens on this one. All of it's time premium, and it would all go back into my pocket, into my account. So on that roll, that's what would happen. So I get the net credit now in my account. Easy peasy, that goes into my account. Hopefully this thing closes. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this order in a second, but I'm not going to go finish it right now. But that's how you set up your roll order. And that's how you go from one strike date to another strike date. And that's how you put it in your spreadsheet as basically your profit and loss. And that's easy peasy. And like I said, you can always just let this one expire worthless. You could just close this one and you could open up a new strike. Ideally in this situation, without talking about like advice or what I would do, I might actually put up my my strike. So I could actually roll up to the 2050 put strike and get myself a little bit more credit here. So this would probably fill about 73 cents. It would actually, if I put it in the mid, I would get 60 cents credit here. So this would actually fill about 73 cents. And then what that would look like is I would get a $20.50 put, and it would actually be at 73 cents. So it'd actually make just a bit more money next week. And what that does is it puts it closer to what the underlying asset price is. So I'm not leaving too much on the table there. So if I were to do a roll, I could actually roll up the strike into a higher strike price. And again, this is all-time premium because $20.50 is still below this underlying asset price. So all-time decay, which is pretty cool. So we could easily do that as well. That's another option. I could even go up a little bit higher. So what it would look like if I went up to the $21. Now, remember this one's a little bit different. So being that it's trading 95 cents a dollar, you're not gaining too much because remember, you have 25 cents of intrinsic value. So as it sits today, if it was ordered to remain the same, you would still owe 25 cents back in a week. But if you think ETH is going to go up, or if it does happen to go up, you would still get that full 25 cents and it would turn into time decay that would go into your account because that intrinsic value would drop off. You wouldn't owe the money. Let's say this went up to $21 by next Friday. This full dollar would go into your account and you would realize the whole amount because as ETH goes up, the intrinsic value goes down. And the intrinsic value of the option turns into time decay, or basically inflated value that goes right into your accounts. Then you would make all that money. So you have some options here as you roll, especially when you're so far up on these puts, like this set of trades that I had here, like this $1.10 to 13 cents, that's like a 95% gain. I only made like a 20% gain here and I lost 12% here or whatever it is. So overall, I just kept rolling. Even though I was in a loss this first week, I just rolled. Now I'm in a gain, net gain there. You can see the net gain of $63 there. And then even a bigger gain here as I rolled to the same strike this week. I was able to capture everything going backward. And that whole trade just kind of played out perfectly just like I wanted it. So as long as the underlying asset is moving up or staying the same, the strategy really works. If it were to move against you, you would always kind of roll into the same strike, just like I did this first week, same strike, and always stay at the same strike so you can always keep realizing that time premium. This time premium kind of refills every time you roll, it refills, and then it kind of deplenishes, like it kind of diminishes as the week goes down, it diminishes, and these little time premium blocks start going into your account, okay? And then when a new week, when you roll up into the new week, basically, what happens when you roll up into a new week? You refill that time premium, it refills up, and then as time decays back off again, you keep the original two basically time premiums there, okay? And then let's just say that you get all these, then they all go into your account, okay? And then what if you roll again? You refill this back up with time premium the next week, and then things start to get real good because this is already from all the time premiums from that same strike, and then you start really filling up. So all these time premiums would start to go over and start to deplenish themselves. And then one week you'll just like delete all the time premium basically, even though the underlying asset always remained the same price. Let's just say, for example, all these time premiums would go up over here and you would just fill up your account to the brim and it would start just really filling up. Sorry, this is a really crude example of how this is working, but it basically gets you the same, gets you the idea across. But anyway, that's pretty much how a roll works. Super easy to do. I mean, we like the simpleness of this method. It's the KISS method, obviously, and that's how we like to roll. So if you have any questions, go ahead and drop those in the comments below, and I'll try to address those in the next video. But this should be pretty easy to understand and pretty easy to replicate the process if this is what you choose to do. Anyway, take it easy, and we will see you in the next one.